Okay, are we ready?
We are.
Hey everyone, Jared James here, and welcome to this episode of Today with Jared James. I am joined by the beautiful
Linda James.
Linda James. I know, by the beautiful Linda James. We are first off. Let me start off by saying, for the people who watch in America, that sounded weird, but Happy Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. We are through Thanksgiving, but although we are festive today, you have kind of the red, I have kind of the green. Yeah. We're doing our best.
I'm not really a red person.
I know. You look good in red. You always say like you don't want to wear red. You know,
it's so interesting. Like when you actually look at marketing, marketing and colors, and you majored in marketing, so you know this. Red is a very bold color.
Yeah.
It's a color of confidence, right? So
it's color of lipstick.
Color of lipstick.
Yep. Nails.
But yeah, I'm just not like
a
red. But every time I do wear red, I do get compliments. This is more of like a burnt, red. It's not red, but
yeah.
Then I put the jeans on and then the belt, and all of a sudden it looked like Santa Claus. I was like, what the heck? This is why.
Did you bring the waist?
And I have black boots on.
Did you bring the waist?
Thank God I did not.
That's tonight. That's what's tonight.
She's going to gain a waist tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
At our holiday party.
Yeah.
But back to what you're about to say.
If I told my children at a very young age that one day I would marry Santa Claus,
Mrs. Claus.
Well, they might be a little confused now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Mrs. Claus.
Mrs. Claus.
I'm going to marry Miss Claus. But anyway, to everybody in the U.S., guys, happy Thanksgiving. We have a lot to discuss today. There's been a lot of things that have happened. The last podcast we did, guys, is anybody just going to rush in here in the middle of the podcast like last time?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, I was told I was doing a birthday
That's a one-time
podcast.
thing.
We had Surfsides here. I'm having a beverage. I thought we were just having. Next thing I know, people are coming in from out of town and doing.
That was fun.
Yeah.
If we were still in the month of November, since I do celebrate all month, we possibly would have, but we're in December.
We didn't really start until
over.
then, so shouldn't it still be going on?
I don't know. We're done.
I'm just saying, we're done.
We're in December.
Anyway, so happy Thanksgiving to you guys. This is our first kind of real podcast since that last one. There's been so much that's happened. We have a lot to discuss today. Since that time, the NAR settlement was approved, which, what does it mean? I mean, there's so many things that have come out. Like, most people don't understand that under that settlement and during the time when everybody was getting ready for the settlement, most agents were breaking the rules and not even realizing it. Like, do you realize that in the rules, so there was a 417-page document filed by the plaintiffs that let everybody know and clarified what the rules are that were being agreed to. And agents, for example, cannot sign buyer agents specific to individual properties, which has been one of the very normal workarounds that everybody's been doing. They're not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to adjust a buyer agency agreement, meaning there's a different comp being added. I'm going to go in and we're going to edit this. We're going to, everybody agrees to it.
Addendums or anything like that?
I don't understand how that can be a rule. Like, I don't know how this doesn't go to the Supreme Court, because how do you make a rule? It's like when I was talking to Kevin Sears, right? And he was talking, the NAR president, and he was talking about the DOJ, filing, their, basically, we're not calling it this. It was like an article of interest or something, but it was a complaint 2 days prior to the actual settlement getting approved. And I'm on the phone with Kevin, and I'm not saying anything that I'm not allowed to say, okay? But I'm on the phone with Kevin right after the DOJ does that. And I'm like, so what's the deal, man? Like, what's going to happen here? Like, what's, whatever. And he just basically says, Jared, I don't know who these people think they are. They don't supersede state law, and it is law in 40 plus states. Buyer agency, here's how it works. You can amend it. You could do this. You can, whatever. And it's just like, and it's implied in the other ones. How does the DOJ get involved and say, we're not allowing that anymore? Like you've heard the words from me over and over and over again over the last year, and I'm so sick and tired of talking about this stuff. It's like Gestapo. They think they control everybody. And they don't care about state law. And we are the DOJ. We're the Department of Justice, And it's like, they don't supersede state law. And so now you find out that this settlement includes provisions where you cannot put in property-specific agreements, which is absurd.
So we were hoping this settlement would more be in our favor. NAR is good to go. It's an opportunity for us to
I don't think
get
it's
support.
over.
And it did not.
I don't think it's over.
Turn that way.
I don't know how.
Babe,
what are we looking at? What are you looking at?
What are we doing? Get over
What's happening? Oh, wow.
It just looks really weird.
So
Sorry.
when the industry gets wind of the fact that that has not been allowed this whole time, and you think there was anger before, it's like you're now impeding on people's rights. It is my right, just like it was my right to make a contract, it is my right to amend the contract, as long as both parties agree. And if I agree and they agree, that's an agreement. Who the hell are you to be telling us you can't do that? You don't supersede all of these other laws because you're the Department of Justice. Like you've got Batman working next to you. Like it's just the more this stuff comes out, it's just frustrating. You're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like there's a rule of law, and you don't supersede that.
Yeah. So these laws that are coming, do they pertain to realtors?
Yeah.
Not sales agents. Not
correct.
real
But
estate
you know
agents.
how this is going, though. You know how this is going. The rules that are being put in place and the agreements that are being put in place for realtors, which is NAR, members, abiding members, paying due members, whatever. Many of the boards in the MLSs are then effectively adopting those rules. And so it doesn't matter whether you are a paying dues member or not. This is the rule for this board. This is the rule for this MLS. This is how we do business. And I just, guys, I don't see this ending anytime soon. And like I said, I'd be surprised if something like that doesn't go all the way to the Supreme Court if somebody decides to take it there, because how do you override what we're allowed to, like,
gosh,
you don't make those
How
rules.
are you guys independent contractors when there's so many
Oh,
rules?
my God. Babe, I don't know if you've heard.
You can't do this, you can't do that. You possibly could do this, but it's at risk. You might be, in a lawsuit if you do it.
Isn't it funny? Like,
Like,
I was just having this conversation with someone today. Like, and I said this at an event recently. I said, welcome to 2024, where all of a sudden we started telling independent contractors how to do business, which was the whole point of being an independent contractor. And you heard me on the phone. I was on the phone with a friend right before I did this who has employees and has a large business. And, we were talking about, he was asking me, how many employees do you have? How many whatever? And I said, we've gone to a lot of contractors. We've leaned up. We've done. And, he was saying, and I was telling him, like, you got to be careful when you have independent contractors because you cannot treat them like employees and then pay them like independent contractors. You can be held liable. So you can't have mandatory meetings. You can't give them business cards. You can't, there's certain things you can't do.
Yeah.
That means you're acting like an employee but not giving them benefits, not giving them, whatever. And so that's the thing as a small business owner, is the idea that you have to be careful about that. How you employ people, you have to be careful how you treat them once you employ them that way, or you hire them as independent contractors. And then you have the government, who has a wing of the government who watches you and is going to audit you and who will come after you and will, fine you and do all this kind of stuff because you are treating people, you're telling people how to work when they're supposed to be independent contractors. And then there's this other branch of the government where all they're doing is telling independent contractors how to do work.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a second, you're from the same place, right? Like how is that possible? What was the old Ronald Reagan line? He said, if you ever hear this line, run like crazy. We're from the government. We're here to help you.
Run.
He's like, if you ever hear that, get the heck out. Like, it's time to go, And so you have these branches where it's like they're all acting differently and doing different things. And it's like there's one set of rules for us as independent contractors, which just favors them. Mm-hmm. And then there's another set of rules for them that favors them. And I don't want to sound like one of these, yeehaw, out on the farm hillbilly people, but it's like at the end of the day, they work for us. Like, that's what it's supposed to be. They work for us. They're the government. We are the people paying taxes. You work for us. And so my hope is, look, regardless, like I say this over and over again, and I feel like you have to say it because people get so freaking tribal. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care who you're for. Most of us are way more complex than we are on the left or on the right. Like the media would try to portray you differently. Most of us are way more complex than that, But at the end of the day, the new administration that's coming in, I just hope to God, for the sake of all of us, that they understand that your job as government is not to control people. You're supposed to be listening to us. That's why we put you in. You're supposed to be doing the things by the will of the people, what we want. You're not supposed to be attacking your own people. You're not supposed to think the worst of your own people. You're not supposed to have rules that favor you and not the people. We're the ones in charge, not you. Mm-hmm. And that's been lost recently. Like that is, It's like that story I've told. You know, I was walking on the boardwalk with my friend in California, in San Diego, and we're walking by the beach, and there's that sign with all these rules for the beach. And I'm just thinking, like, why are there all these rules for the... I mean, it was crazy rules, like things like you should be able to do that on the beach. And I looked at my friend, and I was like, when did that go up? And he's like, about 5 years ago. It started with one rule. And it just kept adding and adding and adding and adding and more rules and more rules and more rules. I said, when was the last time they took a rule away? Nah, that never happens.
Yeah.
And that's the danger that you get into when you start getting into these governmental, they control things, they do whatever, is that every inch you give, they never give it back. So once you allow a DOJ or once you allow any department to start to believe that they can control what you do as an industry and how you do business and how you, it does not go back. And that's not a left-right thing, guys. That's just a freedom, human right, like person. Like, we're independent contractors. You know, we didn't get into this industry, we didn't get into this business because we wanted to be controlled. We wanted to do business the way we wanted to do it, and the results be what they're going to be. And they're going to be different for each person. They're not all going to be the same. That's the chance we take when we go in business for ourselves. And so I don't think this whole thing's over. Like,
no, I think what might happen, you might, like, if I had to think, like, moving forward, what would happen? You did mention that associations or MLSs probably would adopt this, implement it to its force. You know, there might be more MLSs like what we see in Washington, where they're going to be now broker owned, and they're going to operate how they choose to operate. You're not going to tell us what to do with our listings, like my listings.
It's so interesting.
And they're going to possibly pull. It's just going to force more separations. More regulations are going to force people to retract.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing. It's like the law of diminishing returns. It's like, just because you put $10 towards something and it gains you $20 back, so it doubles, doesn't mean if you put $1,000 it's going to gain you $2,000. There's a law of diminishing return. There's only so many people to go after. There's only so many. And it's the same thing when you start to look at control and regulation and those things. There is a place for regulation. There is a place for control to where it does good. And it lets people know that there is, look, law and order. There's a place for a police force, and there's a place for knowing you're going to get in trouble. There's a place for, right? But if every time someone jaywalked, they're throwing them on the ground and putting them in prison, we get to a place where we go, whoa. Like, we know it's the law, but come on, what's going on here, right? And so at the same time, there's a law of diminishing returns when you look at an industry where, or an organization where you have controls in place to keep everything in order, to keep everything, you know, and that helps everybody, and that gives everybody a sense of order, and it gives everybody a sense of respect for each other, and these are the rules of conduct, the rules, like, this is what we do. But when you go past that place of the law of diminishing return and now you go too far, the very reason you put it in, which was to keep things in control, to keep things peaceful, to keep things whatever, it goes the opposite. And now everybody goes, screw this. Like, we're done. Like, this is, you know, and that's kind of the place you're getting to in a lot of society. It's like, I think people believe in rule and order and law and order and these kinds of things, but when you get to a place where you're trying to control everything, all of a sudden you control nothing, because now everybody kind of goes, enough, you know? Yeah. It's like if you had a kid and you put certain rules in place, and you know how I am as a parent, where it's like I have rules and there's a time in their life where I'm very strict, and then there comes a point where it's like, okay, you know the rules, you understand whatever, you understand what's acceptable, and now we're just going to abide by that. We're going to accept you too. I might give you a look if you step out of line of that, but I'm not going crazy, right? And so there's a certain level of those rules where you actually develop good children, and they love you and they respect you, because children want order. Children want rules. Rules make children feel loved. They feel like they're cared about enough, they're loved enough to actually have rules in place, that I want you to be orderly, and I want you to grow up a good kid, and I want you to learn the way of the world, and it's a good thing.
Yeah.
If you tie a kid in a basement, tie them up, throw them food and just control them and put them under complete, now you lost them. Because eventually they're just going to leave you, and they're going to hate you, and they're going to want nothing to do with you, because there's a law of diminishing returns. You took that principle of that control and that order and those rules which showed love, and that same amount of return doesn't come back for every level you notch it up. Once you go too far, now you're controlling someone, and now it's about you and not them. And now what's going to happen is rather than having a loving child who wants to be around you and thanks you for helping them to become a good person and whatever, now they hate your guts. And as soon as they get the chance, they're out of there, you know? And so it's just, those are some extreme examples, but it just shows you how it works, that control and regulation and these things have a place, but when you go too far, you have the opposite effect.
Yeah.
You have rebellion. You have, you know, and so we weren't planning on talking about that, but that's how it works.
Yeah.
It's the way of the world, you know?
So what's next?
Well, I mean, look, God.
Don't talk about any more lawsuits, right? We all know whatever. Who cares? Lawsuits are going to happen regardless.
Well, let's talk about what's
right?
happening in the
But
industry.
Let's
talk about some real world stuff that's happening in the industry. We just saw the big news this week. Compass purchased at properties, Christie's International, which was a big play, and there's a lot of ways to look at this. They purchased them for $444 million, $150 million up front. The rest is going to come in Class A stock 1 year from now, and they will adjust how many shares of that stock is. You know, how many does it take to equal the $444 million, which if I do the math on that, is what, $294 million? If there's $150 million in cash, then that means you're going to have $294 million in stock. So that'll come in the next year, but it's an interesting play. You know, I think I did a reel on this, and I said it reminds me of like when Marriott bought the Ritz-Carlton. You know, this was a luxury play. This is a numbers play. This is don't get it twisted. It's a play to grow when everybody else right now is paying out massive amounts of money towards this settlement and maybe doesn't have the money to play, but they have venture capital and other money, and they're like, this is the time to grow. This is the time to expand. I think there's a major play in this for international. What you're going to see is that you're going to see a lot of companies going international right now. Why? International doesn't have these lawsuits. So when I say these lawsuits are not over, they're not over. And so you have a lot of companies within the U.S. that are very tentative right now because they just have to keep paying out on these lawsuits. Right now it's the price of doing business, unfortunately. But you know where that's not happening? International. And so you've got, when companies right now, brands right now that are very international, companies like Remax and these other ones, they have real advantages right now. EXP has expanded much more into international. These international companies, Century 21's got a good international brand. Like there's these other companies. They have, when you talk about being diversified as a portfolio, they have this portfolio of companies and agents and brands and all these brokerages and stuff that are outside of the U.S., that are not dealing with this nonsense, and there's a real advantage to that.
So they're excluded from anything that's happening in the U.S.?
No, it's just that those
that?
branches outside the U.S. are excluded.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, those ones outside. So when you have a brand that's only U.S., they're in constant threat of litigation right now. It's like it can put you out of business. You know, that's why you're seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions. That's another reason you see something like this. But when you have a brand where they have a big U.S. presence, but they have a big outside the U.S. presence, it's being diversified. You know, in the sense that they have that threat here in the U.S., but all those other parts of their company outside don't. And so when they're competing against a brand in the U.S. that is only in the U.S., they don't have, they have a major advantage, which is that we have a huge part of our company, a huge part of the pie that is not dealing with that. Okay. And so I think that was a major play, is that they're saying we need to go international, both because international is the play always. That's why EXP did it. You know, Glenn from EXP is now heading up the global expansion instead of just the U.S. expansion. Leo, our friend Leo, is doing that. So I think that was part of the play, but I don't think it was the only play. Okay. That was definitely part of the play. But I think there's an outside reason that they're expanding like they are and trying to get as many agents as they possibly can. And that is that Robert Refkin, their CEO, has been very clear that he wants an end to clear cooperation.
Yes, they did mention that. Yeah.
He does not want any kind of rules around being able to market your properties in-house, out-of-house, however you want to do it, but keep them for yourself and sell them without the MLS, pre-market, whatever it is, with no rules around it, which Clear Cooperation obviously puts rules on that, 24 hours, market it to the public,
everyone's different, yeah.
And, look, there's a lot of different schools of thought on this. Leo, our friend, believes that's not. He believes that Robert Refkin is basically just trying to make a play to be able to, have his own stuff that they can keep to themselves and whatever. And Leo's thing is, hey, if you do that, then we do that. We're bigger than you. And then that company does that, and that doesn't benefit the consumer. Like, that's not a good play. And I'm not going to debate clear cooperation right now, but my point is that I think that part of the reason why Compass wants to grow at the level they do is grow their agent count so they can grow their inventory, their listing count, because we know that their belief is that they don't believe in clear cooperation, that they want to be able to keep things in-house. Well, how do you become more effective at that? Is by having a bigger presence that
Correct.
You can now keep in-house.
Larger market share.
Yeah.
They actually, I believe, have a platform that curates in-house listings.
Yeah.
They're
ready for it.
Not international. Yeah. And they do that very, very well within their platform. I know of this because I had a broker reach out to me that was once a part of Compass, branched off, and then connected with me regarding FyrstUp.
They use FyrstUp, yeah.
Yeah, so they use FyrstUp now because Compass had the tool in-house. They built it, they did it, and they followed the rules. And so now they're wanting to use FyrstUp to do the same exact thing on a smaller scale for them. But yeah, it makes sense. But you're saying that they are wanting to eliminate clear cooperation?
Oh yeah, he wants clear cooperation gone.
So then his tool that he uses then would be no use.
Essentially,
no need for it.
It would be used.
Because clear cooperation.
It would be used, but there'd be absolutely no rule around it. He would literally just be marketing to his people, period, as much as possible, and just trying to sell the properties.
That's what clear cooperation allows you to do, though, right now.
Yeah, so you've got
if you want to eliminate clear cooperation, that means you're marketing to everybody. There are no rules.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you're saying he wants to eliminate clear cooperation, that means that I could pre-market my property to any brand,
right,
and not get in trouble, and I could do that within a period of time.
Yeah.
If he's wanting to keep it in-house, that means he's in favor of clear cooperation. He wants to keep it.
Yeah, no, he's not in favor of clear cooperation.
That's interesting, then.
Not at all.
That's interesting because it would backfire on on the product.
We'd have to get in his head on that, but he wants. So here's the other thing too we haven't talked about. So you said how they went off of that and they went over to FyrstUp. So FyrstUp is a tool that we use in brokerage right now.
Yeah.
Completely compliant because you can market your properties within brokerage. No rules around that or anything. And we allow people to actually, their agents to put their listings on there, to put their buyers on there. There's buyer matching that goes back and forth. There's open houses that you can put up there. You can see what open houses are. You can request to host an open house if you want to host open. It's the virtual whiteboard back and forth. It becomes interesting if clear cooperation goes away. Do we with FyrstUp keep doing it with brokerages and doing whatever, or do you open it up to a market and go directly to agents and team leaders and whatever and just say, hey, everybody's property pre-MLS is going to be on here. You're doing your seller a disservice if you don't put it on here to let everybody know, and it becomes another tool to do that. It's just there's all these pivots that come.
There's a lot of conversation about that,
yeah.
and so it will be interesting. But let's be real. If you just said it earlier, no one ever removes a rule.
Yeah.
They'll revise it and add another.
Yeah,
right?
It's interesting.
So if they do revise it, we'll see how clear cooperation looks like. If it's completely gone, obviously they're going to have MLSs will dictate. Okay, well, what role do we have to implement then to protect the MLS?
Yeah.
Because that means there's no purpose of really the multiple listing service.
Well, that's kind of the argument
and so,
that Refkin's been making.
Yeah,
he wants to become the portal within his companies that you go to. But again, that's where I think he's saying, like, look, it doesn't even need to go to the MLS. Let's just keep it here. Let's keep it. That's why he wants that. And then you have people like Leo speaking up and going, hey, if you do that, we're all going to do that. We're all just going to play that game. Meaning and that's where, by the way, you said, well, then why would he want that? Because, you can already do that. The MLS is the play. Because you don't need to put it on the MLS. Just sell it in-house. Don't even allow it to go out to other companies. Just keep it in-house. Let's sell it in-house. Let's go. And then, like I said, people like Leo go, well, that's not good for the consumer. Everybody's not seeing it. It's not good for your seller. That's not good. That's only good for you. And he's going, if you play that game, we play that game. We're bigger than you. And then RE/MAX plays that game. And then KW plays that game.
It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot of the brick and mortars because they rely on the big brands.
That's exactly. It hurts everybody.
It's going to cause more migrations happening.
Mergers and acquisitions.
Merger and acquisitions. The MLS is so diluted now. There's no purpose of it, especially when they remove compensation, right? So it's all of that, and it's like, what are we doing here?
Well, that's kind of Leo's point. Is he's like, play this down the road. Like, this does not play out well. It may sound like a good idea for you individually, selfishly in the short term, but like, this does not play well if you keep on, playing this down the road. Because if you do that, we do that, and then I do that, and they do that, and it's like, it's like a Cold War. It's like if everybody turns their missiles on each other, this isn't good. We all play well together. That's what we do. And so this is the debate going on in the industry right now. It's interesting, and it changes a lot. And NAR just keeps kicking the can down the street. They're like, let's talk about it again.
They don't want to
let's talk about it then. And because you have major players that are kind of all over the place, you know. And what I think we need to do is we need to stop talking about what company it's good for and say what's good for the consumer. Hey everyone, I want to take a moment and talk to you about a really cool company called Privy. You know, if you were listening to this episode or even moving forward here, you're going to notice that I'm going to talk a lot about investors and how I think this is a huge part of the market that if you're growing a real estate business, we're not paying enough attention to. You know, I'm a big believer here that sometimes to grow your business, you don't just have to pick up a piece of the pie that's already there. Sometimes you have to go to a completely different pie. And it's so interesting because when you look at it, you look at all the data and you see that, you know, 26, 27%, almost 30% of all residential transactions in the last 12 months were investors, right? They were investors. And when I was an agent, like a ton of the business that I did were investors. And so a lot of you hear that and you're like, oh, it's institutional investors. Do you know institutional investors only make up about less than 3% of the overall market? And that's actually going down for the first time in years, which means that we have this huge number of people who are buying and selling properties all of the time, right under our nose, thousands of transactions. They're going to happen regardless. The only question is, are they happening with you? And that's the key thing that I want you to understand. And so when you look at Privy and what they do, they make you the go-to person to work with when it comes to finding investments, when it comes to finding out what a good deal is, when it comes to finding out what the right neighborhoods are, what the wrong neighborhoods are, what previous people had did, all at the touch of a button, right? And so all of a sudden, it's funny, I look at their stuff and I'm like, you know, I worked with all these investors when I was selling real estate, and I'm like, how did I do this without this kind of a tool? And you don't have to do that. Now these kinds of tools are there. And so you're going to hear me in the future talking a lot about working with investors and what that looks like. And like I've said over and over again, it is my job to not only tell you what the problems are and what the solutions are, but ultimately to give you the tools that you need so that you can be the go-to source for something like that. And man, are these people worth a lot of money to you. So do yourself a favor, guys. Go to privy.pro. That's privy.pro. Amazing tool. You can ask us questions. There's more things even coming down the road with them that are just going to blow you away. But this is a tool you need in your business, especially for what it costs. It's not a cost, though. It's an investment, but it's well worth it. Let's start getting those investors. That's what we have to get back to. What is good for the consumer? Everything we do from a business perspective, within our real estate businesses, within our brands, within our associations, we need to start with the question, what is good for the consumer? That is what Zillow did early on, which is why they're kicking everyone's tail. Okay. While the industry supported Realtor.com and supported all these other places, Zillow kicked everybody's tail because they gave a better consumer experience.
Yeah.
They gave the consumer what they wanted before everybody else did. And so a lot of you listening to me may not like that. You don't have to like Zillow. You don't have to, that's not the point I'm making. Like, two things can be true at the same time. But they did what was good for the consumer, and we know that's true because the consumer flocked to them. You can hate them all you want. Their data, their traffic blows everyone else away, okay, and has for years. And now there's competitors coming in and everything else. But that happened because of an original decision of what's best for the consumer, while places like Realtor.com said what's best for the realtor. And that was a misguided way to look at things, okay? It'd be easy to look at ourselves and selfishly on the first layer go what's good for the realtor.
Yeah.
When the truth is you can unselfishly say what's good for the consumer, and then guess what? Ends up that's what's best for the realtor too, because where the traffic comes to is where the realtor wants to be. But they asked the right question at the wrong time. Okay, so the time to ask what's good for the realtor was next. The first was the consumer. Okay, and so I think that we need that to be kind of the guiding principle of what we're doing moving forward as we're making all these major decisions about clear cooperation and associations and MLSs and all this kind of stuff. What's good for the consumer? Let's start there and then make decisions from there. That's what I would do.
Super interesting, because a lot of, sitting across, not across the table, but sitting on like Zoom calls with brokers or executives when pitching FyrstUp, right?
Yeah.
You get both sides of it.
Yeah.
You'll get, that's terrible for the seller. That's a disadvantage for the seller to use your product.
Yeah.
Right? And then I would say, actually, it's a disadvantage not to, because you could pre-market without days on market. You could gauge interest. You could peak. You could build momentum on a property.
And by the way,
before
more
it
than
hits
just
the
selling
market.
the property,
It's
you're
not
getting
about selling
feedback.
it.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about pre-marketing. So when it's on the MLS, it is market ready.
So
with that
true.
days on market. But you know,
Short-sighted.
It is. It really is. And so until you teach them that and you tell them, like, then you're like, oh, you are right.
Yeah.
Now it's up to the seller if they choose to sell it before it hits the market or not.
Yeah.
It's not your call.
Yeah.
It's the seller's, right? And so, but it's a disadvantage to not pre-market.
I have so much to say about that because, like, just take that thinking a little further. You're saying it's a disadvantage because you're not showing it to the most amount of potential market, right?
Possibly, but there's other reasons.
All right. Well, then when an agent markets your property, I hope they're running ads in Brazil. I hope they're running ads all over the world because there's potential market there.
If it's an investment property that is, then yes.
But you see my point though. Like if you take that out, now again, the whole point though, yes, we want to sell the property. That's the overall point, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that every action, whether it sells it or not, means it was worth it or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what that means, right? It's like if my landscaper's job is to mow my lawn, when he fills the tank with gas. That wasn't a wasted activity. I don't look around and go, where's the cut grass? You're just filling a tank? There's no grass cutting. We know that it all adds up to the lawn being mowed.
Yeah.
And so at the same time, when you say, well, that's a waste. We're trying to sell the property. You should have what? It's misguided. It's short-sighted. It's putting gas in the tank. So yes, sometimes when you put it on FyrstUp beforehand, sometimes it sells the property. In fact, a lot of times it sells the property. It's awesome. You get great deals. And by the way, it's not true that all demand always equals a greater price.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So there's a thing in the security world that the appearance of security is the best security you can have. Like just having a cop there goes, don't mess around.
Yeah.
Having a camera, whether it's on or not, don't mess around. Putting a property into FyrstUp before it hits the rest of the market lets everyone know from that brokerage who goes and looks at that property and potentially makes an offer, we need to get this before it hits the market. Mm-hmm. The demand can actually be greater than when it actually hits the market because now there's scarcity and there's a deadline and and it's like, I got to get on this right now. Like quick before they're here. Like I remember when I sold my house, one of my houses previously, and we were going to put it on the market and somebody came and saw that I was doing whatever and they made an offer and I was just like, hey, great offer. I appreciate it. We're just going to wait and put it on the market. We just want to see. And they were like, we'll give you the price. They just came right back. We'll give you the price. Because the fear of the coming avalanche of potential people was greater than the demand of those people actually being there.
Yeah.
And that's the part of sales that you have to understand. It's not all black and white. There are other parts to this. There's a filling of the tank. There's all of those things. And that's why a tool like FyrstUp works so well is because not only does that happen where you do get offers and people want to come in and you are able to keep it in-house in a compliant manner, but beyond all of that, you're filling the gas tank to go mow the lawn, meaning you're getting the feedback also from the agents going, that was no, or this is what they said, or this is, and now you're able to prep it, before you actually hit the overall market if it doesn't sell first. So there's multiple sides to that.
Yeah.
And we've never really had that combo.
No, we don't. And that's actually, a lot of that happens in the training process, right? In the coaching process of it. And I do, it comes natural in me just because of the MLS. I've sat in an MLS executive position. I've done a lot of training on the MLS. I use reverse prospecting on the MLS when I was there. And so when I talk about the product and kind of have them visualize that user experience on both sides, they could see it very clearly.
Yeah.
But you're very much right. It could go both ways.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a disservice, not going to use it. And agents will do that. It's a disservice. They're not going to use it.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's a great way to put it, though. It's like the appearance of security is better than security itself. Like
yeah.
Having a camera not even on is just like, whoop. Like I remember better than having an alarm system in your house is having the sign outside that says, this house is protected by, whatever that security company is. And they're like, next house, we're not doing this one, right? There's something to that. And so we've got to make sure as a society we don't become so smart that we're actually dumb in the end. Because that's how it's like I've said before, like in a world that knows so much, we just lack wisdom. We have so many people who know so much and they just lack wisdom, and it doesn't have to be that way. Like we need wise people again to kind of like speak up and be like, hey, I get the analytics say this and this plus this is this. And that's not how it actually works. Like, here's the reality. Yes, you have less people, but that creates more demand. That's wisdom. Facts and truth. Those are two different things. There are facts and there is truth. Facts are debatable. I can make up different facts to make you believe whatever it is that I want you to believe. Truth is unchangeable. It is what it is.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's the difference when you start talking about how to use these various tools and how it works and how to do this and wisdom versus it's facts versus truth at the end of the day. Okay. And so anyway, let's move on from that. The other thing that came up, not to talk about more lawsuits, but this is going to go somewhere. I put out a video yesterday. You and I were just laying on the couch and I'm like, I got to do a video on this. Are you kidding me? I saw a thing that Rocket Mortgage now is suing the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And you saw my reaction. I'm just like, enough. Like, you just want to go shake this freaking government and be like, we are not the enemy. And, like, if you go read that article about Rocket Mortgage suing the Department of Housing and Urban Development, they have every right to be. They're getting held accountable for stuff they have nothing to do with. You know, that they're just, you know, that basically the Department of Housing and Urban Development just thinks they're bad. You know, and everything that comes out that's not good, it's because they're bad people. And it's just like, could we just get back to remembering that, like, the people in this industry are good for the American people? Like, you know, housing is a good thing for the American people. Like, owning a home is a great investment. It is. You build wealth. You feel good about yourself. Like, you know, there's a difference between mowing your own lawn and having to mow the neighbor's lawn. It feels different. You know why? Because home ownership does something to you. You know, and that's the best way I can describe it. When they go, what's the difference between if I own or I rent? Go mow your lawn when you own it, and tell me how you feel different when you go Go mow your lawn that you own compared to go 5 houses down and mow the neighbor's lawn, and tell me you don't feel a difference.
Yeah, baby, do you mow your lawn?
Sometimes.
Oh, okay. Just asking.
Sometimes.
One time.
How dare you? You know I love to mow my lawn.
It feels good, though. I know.
I love to mow my lawn.
Yeah,
I do.
Tom, I know you're back there.
I get a little busy.
Every time Jared Gardner comes and gets his lawn fixed up, Jared will always say, "Oh, I just love the lines."
I love the lines.
Grass.
I like mowing the. I absolutely like mowing the lawn. Like, it's like a. Now look, I used to mow the lawn a lot more. And sometimes I still do now if I have time, whatever. But you know how it is, babe. It just gets busy. It's like you start running around going crazy, whatever. And then you got a couple hours during the week when you get home, you fly back in or something. It's like, okay, do I spend it with my kids? Do I do whatever? Do I go to the gym? Or do I mow the lawn, you know? And sometimes it's mow the lawn. That's great.
That one time it was, yeah.
Oh, my God. Tom, you might be looking for a new co-host. Okay? All right?
Anyways,
this woman's gone nuts over here.
I do agree
She's
with
gone
you,
crazy.
There's something about, like, for me, it's like gardening, like planting. Like, I love that. Like, I'll do it every now and then, but, like, that's what I love.
Yeah.
But yeah.
She did it one time.
A couple times. No, I haven't done it in my new house at all.
Yeah, right. That one time. Tom, is your mic on?
It is.
Oh, we would have said hello to you.
I know.
Oh, we would have said it. No, I'm just kidding. Hello. Hi, everybody. How's it going?
We didn't say hi.
No, we didn't.
So I want to talk about this, though. So I just want to get back to a place where we remember that look, are there bad apples? Are there bad realtors? Are there bad mortgage people? Sure. There's millions of people. Of course there are, you know? But at the end of the day, most of them are great. I know most of the people in this industry. Most of them are great. Do I know some jerk-offs? Sure. You know, but like most of them are great. And I think we need to get back to remembering that you don't penalize everyone because you got some bad apples. You get those bad apples and you take them out. You know, like that's it. Like you penalize them. You do, you know, and that may not be easy, but it's certainly not easy to penalize everyone. Like that's not, it's not easy. It's not right. It's not fair. And unfortunately right now I don't see an end in sight unless, like I said, maybe this new administration comes in. The hope, you know, is that the new administration comes in and has a more pleasant outlook on our industry. And on the people in the industry. I think at the end of the day, that's the best we can hope for. But I don't know. On that same note, though, when we're talking about government intervention and everything, did you see what they're doing? Like the Senate had a hearing the other day on the airlines.
Oh, no. No, you mentioned a little bit about this, but
I
didn't.
couldn't. Tom, did you see this?
No.
Oh, I know you follow this stuff very closely,
Very
Tom.
closely. This is a shocker. I missed it. Yeah.
So there they were, Spirit Airlines,
We love Spirit.
Frontier,
We love Frontier.
I mean, we're talking about all the ones where you got to think happy thoughts for the flight to take off. You know, the only thought I thought to myself as they were sitting there in that Senate hearing, I was like, did they fly here on their own airlines?
Probably
Because I have a
not.
feeling they were probably on private.
Yeah.
Or like something like that. But it was captivating. So I am all for, look, these cheaper airlines, guys, hear me now. I'm for it. You need them as an option sometimes. I'm not saying that that's bad. Look, the big joke though all the time is like, hey, do you have to get up and go to the bathroom? $25. Did you look in the wrong direction? That'll be $15. Like, they give you these low cost whatever, and by the time you're done flying with them, you might as well have flown private. Because it is.
I know, they charge you
Would you like free peanuts? Sorry, the bag was $12. You know, and it's
It's
just
free
like
after you pay $10.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like, wow, you know? And so what came out of this hearing, though, is that there is some stuff going on that's not okay. So, for example, their counter agents are incentivized to, when you're bringing your carry-on on, to pick your carry-on out and tell you that it's not acceptable or it's not the right size or it's not going to work or whatever it is. They get paid to pull bags out, whether it's true or not. The more bags they pull out of your hand and go, nope, not going to fit. Nope, that one's not acceptable. Nope, going to have to check that. The actual counter agents get paid money per bag.
So when they charge you there at the desk.
So they are incentivized to
It's like a
kill
commission.
your experience.
Yeah.
Because you know me, if I was getting on the plane and they grab because I don't check a bag.
And Jared's like, no.
And they grab my bag and they're like, you know, it's not going to fit. It's not going to. And how many times do we joke about them telling me that? And I'm like, no, it fits. I know it does. Like, I've done this been on this flight many times. Not going to fit. And they get all mad and whatever. Now I know why they get mad. Because they're getting money to actually pull that bag from you. You know?
Are there specific airlines?
Well, he was specifically hammering Spirit and Frontier.
Oh, I don't.
Hammering them. And he literally says to them, do you understand what a terrible experience it is to fly on your planes? Do you know how? Of course you don't know. You don't care. It's terrible. And he is just nailing on these. Oh
my gosh.
But all of that aside, look, these senators, they grandstand, they do their whole thing so they can get time, so that people like me talk about them on the podcast.
I know, they got
I'm
your
not
attention.
mentioning their names or anything, but I did not know they were incentivized to pull the bag from you. How about that?
That's crazy.
That's some bull crap. That's an absolute bull crap.
That's just wrong.
That's wrong, and it's killing the customer experience. You know, again, I'm
Not
all for the
only
cheap
that-
airline where you pay per whatever you have to do, a la carte.
Yeah.
You want a meal, you want to sit in a certain spot, you want to have a carry-on, I'm all for it. You know, like that allows some people to get on flights who maybe couldn't afford to go otherwise, where all those things are built in otherwise. I love it. But the idea you're incentivizing to pull away, like, I did not know that.
That's awful.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But it was fun to watch.
I want to watch that. You have to send it over to me.
Oh, it's
We should link it somewhere.
good theater.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good theater. It's good stuff.
That's so interesting.
They go off.
So you talked a little bit about when you were talking about HUD. You mentioned buying a home. There's something about buying a home and owning a home. So I put a little thing, a little note on. We have a podcast running of notes, and I didn't even share it with you. Really, I don't even know where this is going to go. But home, let's talk about
second podcast in a row. There's a surprise.
It's a surprise for me too. Let me just tell you.
Jeez.
And for Tom. Okay, and Tom, you could actually totally jump into this conversation.
Oh, cool.
Because
You will stay silent, Tom.
It would be fun.
Turn that mic off.
No, it'd be fun. Okay, let's talk about this. I'm just gonna say one thing, and I want you to explain your definition of this. When I say American dream, what's the American dream?
What's that?
Nothing.
Tom, give me your American dream.
Dusty roads.
Dusty Rhodes, God. He's a wrestler. He's a wrestler.
Wrestler.
He's a wrestler. This is with no time to think, no time to whatever, okay? I know what the American dream is. I also think it's bullcrap.
I want you just to say, okay,
My
the American
definition.
dream. When people say the American dream, what's the American dream?
My definition of the American dream would be doing what you want, when you want, how you want to do it, without anybody else telling you how.
Okay,
That's it.
What do people say the American dream is?
Okay, obviously. You know, it is graduating college, getting a home, getting married, having kids, and then going off into the sunset one day past your white picket fence.
I was thinking about this because I was looking at just numbers and data on what people believe the American dream is and if it's still obtainable. And it was interesting because, and I don't have the numbers, based on percentage in certain, your baby boomers say, it's obtainable. We're here.
If you want both parents to work and someone else to raise your children, it's still attainable.
And then you have millennials that are like,
but even that, childcare is unaffordable.
But so you look at it now. Yeah. Is it really the American dream? Do you think it's still obtainable for the generation coming up?
If they make a lot of money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have people right now that are still living with their parents after college.
Yep.
They're not even in their career. They don't even know what their career is.
Babe, 2005 there were 3.8 million home sales. I mean 2005 there were 7 million home sales. Last year there were 3.8 million, with many more people on the planet. Mm-hmm. So what does that tell you? A lot of people think that the American dream is not achievable.
Yeah.
Because 20 years ago, with way less population, we had double the number of sales. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so you take today's world and look, even if you got to the point where the numbers add up, let's deep dive on this. The numbers add up, okay? I think I saw a thing the other day that you have to make, even in the last 4 years, it's gone from like 70-something thousand a year to 128,000 a year to own a home, okay? Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, right? That's not taking into account paying off your student loans that are not forgivable even through bankruptcy, okay? So that goes to a different level. Then you got to keep up with everybody and make sure you have a brand new lease on a car, because you got to have a car every 3 years. You have to. That's a must. Plus, you got to have, all the newest clothes, all the latest stuff. And post-COVID, we don't cook anymore. Everything is Uber Eats and go out to eat. Now, that's a whole other expense that's there. Like, the quote-unquote American dream, this is why less people are having children. This is why less people are getting married. Mm-hmm. This is why, people are being told that you don't need another person to make you happy. You don't need. And then what's the result of that? They never follow it through. We have more people now going longer without a spouse, who are unhappy. Antidepressants at record highs. Drugs are now at record highs. And yet we keep preaching this message of things that actually don't make you happy. Mm-hmm. But we're like, but you don't need that. You don't. And it's just like, no, everyone's different. But for a lot of people, these things would make them happy. But they're being told they're wrong and they're bad and they're just basic if they go and do those things. And so when I say in the beginning the American dream is do what you want, when you want to do it on your own terms, it's a very libertarian approach in the sense that it's going to be different for everybody. A high percentage of people would probably still like to get married and have kids and have a house. And that's 100% fine. And then there's other people who, they're the Bill Maher's of the world. They want to be single. And they just want to do the things they want to do, and that's awesome. And
I think I look at it more so. It's just so much more challenging.
America should be a place where you can do what it is you want to do without forcing it on other people, but it should be available to you. And the traditional American dream of going to college, getting married, having kids, owning a home, and retiring at the same company you've been with for the past 35 years, collecting your pension, it is gone.
That's your baby boomers. Those are your loyalists, and that's the last generation you're going to see of it. That's it. It's gone.
I think it takes a half a generation for everyone else to realize it's gone, because you need trial and error, you need mistakes, you need the wreckage of the past not working before people will move on, because it's so ingrained. And so unfortunately what's going to happen is that we are going to have a generation of people who actually live very tough and unfulfilling lives in the world of social, where it's all about fulfilling and doing what you want. And that's the joke of it all, is that the opposite side of that is actually not true for so many people. And so I actually think it's going to take a generation to realize this doesn't work, this isn't good, this isn't, in order for that to happen, right? Like, how much longer can, I've got my son right now looking at colleges, the potential of college. Every single college that people mention, they talk about, well, I went there 30 years ago. Man, it's so much bigger now. Boy, they got all these new facilities. Boy, they got all that. How do you think that's happening? Okay? Because it just, prices went up and up and up and up. How much longer do colleges survive.
I know.
When we find out they're a commodity. When you find out, I was just reading a major CEO today who was saying, we don't even look at a degree. We don't care. It's an absolute waste. And so you have these huge segments of our American dream that are so ingrained. So I see it with my own family. I see it with my son, where he's like, I have no interest, I have no whatever. And then everyone around him, you have to. Why?
It's just what
you
you
have
do.
to. It's what you do. How you almost need a generation of crash and burn. You almost need a generation of, and it sucks to say that, but it's like the Titanic had to crash. You know, it couldn't. They couldn't realize they built this thing so big without the equipment, without the whatever, to just go, well, let's just start mid whatever, let's go. It had to crash, and then they went back to the engineers and went, hey, you know what? We got to do something better here. That was not what we thought. So that sucks, but it's the tale of history.
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately, I think that traditional American dream, that is still the American dream for some people, no doubt, and that's okay. But the American dream should be whatever it is that you want it to be for yourself.
Correct.
You know, with no judgment, with no, whatever. And will the majority still pick that? Yes, because it brings happiness. There is happiness in a good relationship, right? How many times in the last couple of days, this is weird and we'll, whatever. But how many times in the last couple of days did you just look at me and go, I love you? Like and you were just happy and you were just
I love us.
joyous
I love
and you were just,
everything.
you said, I love us. I love, right. And there's this joyous whatever, right? And so that brings you joy. That brings you, and so we know that in these institutions, when they're done right, they have the ability to do that. We know that when children are conceived correctly and at the right time and whatever, that they are amazing and they are, we know the opposite's true as well. When they're not, it can be stressful. When you're with the wrong person, it can be stressful, right? And so there was joy, there was great. There's a reason why that dream was there, okay? From the institutions of marriage, kids, and those things. The housing one's another one. And the American dream built around housing, and I want to be clear before I say this, okay? I support housing.
Yeah.
I support that for 99% of the public, it is a way to build future retirement, wealth, self-worth, ownership, built-in savings, 1,000%. Two things can be true at the same time. Homeownership, the idea of the American dream of the homeownership, was built by banks because it supported them. Why do you think it is that in the first 21 years of your mortgage, you pay almost 99% of all the interest on your loan? Who's that interest going to? It's not going to your equity. It's not going. Your equity is built through the growth, through the idea of the market, more people buying into this dream, which is creating demand, which is building, which is, but the idea that you're paying down during that time, the American dream was built by the American banks. Okay? And that is an unpopular truth.
Yeah.
And like I said, two things can be true. Two things can be true at the exact same time. I support home ownership. I teach people how to sell homes and do that stuff. I love the idea of that. I love the idea of an ownership society. I love the idea. It is also true that part of the American dream was built by money-hungry banks. And it has worked out in their favor at every single turn.
Yeah. I want to read this real quick. I found the data. So the American dream focused on owning a home, starting a family, and securing comfortable retirement. That's what they looked at. So education wasn't a part of this particular data report that they pulled. So study reveals now, and this study was done 3 weeks ago, 67% of Americans believe that they're on their way to achieving the American dream, while 33% or 32%, point whatever, believe it is out of reach. It's not happening, which has gone up 24% from last year.
Understandable.
Isn't that wild?
Well, you say since last year. Look at like I said, in the last 4 years, you went from needing $70-something thousand a year to own a home to $128,000. That is, I don't know about you, my salaries for employees have not increased by 80%, 90%. That's insane.
What has increased? Debt.
Yeah.
So that's what they're also talking about here. So one person that referenced on here is 26 years old, and she says, it's just complex. She says, I've changed over the years too, and the American dream has changed. So right now my focus is really just personal career.
Yeah.
That's it. Now it's just taking care of myself.
And here we go. Now this goes
Right?
back to what I said before. So now the American dream, it's like we throw out the baby with the bathwater. And now it becomes, the whole thing is dead. So even the idea of having a spouse, having children, less are having children, less are interested in having children. But all the data also shows women in particular, you know, like they actually do these studies for men and women. Women in particular, right around the age of 40 who don't have kids, and this doesn't mean all of them. Some people are going to be like, yeah, that's great. I was happy with it. Go through depression and go, I wish I had kids. You know, there's this built-in ingrained, like,
Yeah.
you know, mother type of thing that occurs. And this is not, for all of you listening, these are not like my opinion. Like they've done these studies. And so we're pushing, this goes back to do what you want, when you want, whatever.
Yeah.
This goes back to, you know, I'm all for that if that's what you want. That's awesome. Go for it. What I'm saying is, as a society, when it comes to the dream, we went from pushing that to now pushing the opposite. And I'm like, can we stop pushing things and just let people decide? You know, like that's something that's popped up in the last 10 years. We don't let people decide. We push everything. There is one truth, and then we push it. And if you're outside of that, you are some kind of and then it turns out usually that thing that was pushed, it was wrong, you know. But it's just like, I'm much more of, if you know me personally, I'm all for that if that's what you want. I want to do this. You want to do that.
Yeah.
We're just pushing things on people that ultimately are making them unhappy, and that I'm not for.
This younger generation coming up, it mentions in here that they do think it's important to own a home. I think it's important. 89% says, yeah, it's important.
Just unattainable.
Only 10% say it's actually obtainable.
You can't blame them. It's just numbers.
I know.
Numbers.
And it's
Usually
just,
when
it's
prices
just
go
so...
up, rates come down. When rates go up, prices go down. What did we just look at?
Isn't that,
Both.
it's just, it is wild. But that's the thing, though. It is obtainable. And the reason, and they go into like debt and the percentage of debt and how like baby boomers, their debt right now based on a range is X%, and it's 3 times more for the generation coming up and all this stuff. And it's just unfortunate. It's like, do we need to just educate the generation coming up on, like, you know, just financial saving, like just to save? How do you save? How do you support yourself? How do you support?
By the way, that was a better
Just
question. I didn't mean it that way. How do you save?
Yeah.
They're paying everything out. How are they going to save?
Where do you cut costs?
Because
You
then
know,
they
it's
go,
a
well,
lot
then
of that.
well, employers, because this is what they do. Then they go to minimum wage and, you know, whatever. It's like, well, employers aren't paying enough. They're not. We need to pay more. You know, whatever. It's just like, again, law of diminishing returns. At some point, company can't be in business anymore. You can't pay someone who's just doing a regular everyday job as if they are now an executive from 15 years ago. You know, like, and that's what's happening right now. And so it all starts to add up, and it just goes kaboom. This is how economies fail.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't add up, right? And so you can't blame them for saying, you know, and look, yes, they need to learn how to save because they have grown up in a world where everything's available to you, and you just pop, no doubt about it. But at the same time, there's another side to it too, where it's like, you know, we went to the restaurant last night, and you looked at the menu, and you went, that much for that?
Oh, yeah.
You know? And like, we went to just a regular everyday run-of-the-mill shop, you know, I'm not going to name it or anything, but like what's always been known as inexpensive hole-in-the-wall sushi place that we like to go
Local
to
spot,
with,
yeah.
you know, with us and Grayson's girlfriend is $300. And it's like, this is not attainable for people.
Yeah.
This is not normal. Hey guys, I want to talk to you about an amazing real estate tool right now called Mosaik. You know, if you want to take your people off of the portals where they're all hanging out and whatever and into your ecosystem, this is the tool that does that. You know, this is a beginning to end, not a CR, it's not another CRM, it doesn't replace that, but it's a beginning to end system that really looks at the lifetime value of your client and looks at every part of that process and takes care of all of it in a way that's completely transparent. So yes, they've got search, they've got transaction coordination, they've got, you know, even for us when we do things like we teach our students the Core 100. They've got the ability to put those people in there, track what's happening, do all of that in an amazing way. But probably the thing that I love about this more than anything is the transparency. You know, in an industry that keeps talking about transparency, and usually when you hear something over and over again, it means that it's not being done at all. This is actually a transparent tool. This is the first tool that I've seen that actually brings the consumer into the transaction. And I think that is the next level of where we are going within this industry. You know, you hear from so many buyers and sellers sellers that, oh, my agent didn't do anything, or I feel like they're not, and there's not this communication going on. This is the first tool I've seen, almost like the early days of .loop where you had that collaboration, but it was just for the document and the signature. They can do that with the transaction now, not only with the clients, but with the vendors, whoever it is, in an amazing way where they can see every step of what's going on. You can write notes to them back and forth. They can see every part of the paperwork and everything and the way that you decide to show it. It's really the next level of what we need to be doing from a consumer experience perspective, so they know what's happening, and more importantly, we drive that lifetime value back to you. So if you haven't yet, guys, this is a tool you're going to hear over and over again. You're going to hear me talk about it because I really think it's my role to not just define what the problems or solutions are, but provide the tools that will actually get you there. And while so many tools right now are just check the box and just say you have them, this is one yourself, your team, your brokerage. If you're not on it yet, you need to be. This is not the last you're going to hear about this. They're going to grow astronomically, and this is something you need to get on board with if you're going to operate. If you're going to be one of those people that really overcomes and is that top producer in your area, you've got to have the right tools in place, and Mosaik is one of those right now. So do yourself a favor. Go check out mosaik.io, mosaik.io. Again, mosaik.io. You won't regret it, guys. Send us questions if you do, but this is one of those ones that you're going to look back on and remember, amazing tool, And so you can't blame them. Like, it makes sense.
Tom, do you own a home?
I do.
You
Yeah,
do?
I was actually really lucky. I bought my house like right before COVID, like 2019.
Oh, you did?
December 2019. Like,
Okay.
we closed. Yeah.
And are you thinking of like living there for quite a bit, like a while?
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great spot. We got, again, really lucky because it was a foreclosure and everything. So, yeah, it was
See,
lucky.
That's also like a question of mine. It's like, it's the biggest debt that anyone will ever get into,
Yeah.
right? It's purchasing a home. And then you have the young generation coming up that they really aspire to own a home. But at the same time, it's a huge, I have a girlfriend of mine, single mom.
Yeah.
She's renting. I think her monthly rent is like $2,300 a month. Okay. In California. We just referred her over to a wonderful agent in Fresno that's getting her into a home, right? And she's looking at a mortgage payment now of $3,700, $3,800. But her dream and for her family is to own a home. At the same time, I'm like, well, you're paying a lot more for that. Like, is it worth that? Is that your goal, or is that what society says that you've made it?
Yeah.
Like, is it necessary? Do your kids really care? They love the house that you raised them in. Now you're getting out of that, and you're paying this much more to get in something just for a few years.
I was going to say the next question.
It's not an investment for 10, 15 years
That's
from
exactly
now.
right. That was my next
It's
question.
a few years from
Yeah.
now. So is it worth it?
When I say buying a home's not for everyone, what I mean is, and I've said this, I did a video about this recently. They said, is it a good time to buy? When's the right time to buy? And it's like when it's the right time for you. And one of the factors that factors into that is time. If you are going to be there for an extended amount of time, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be your home. That is going to be. If you are living in the world of uncertainty and you don't know, and it's short term, and then maybe right now it is not, right? Like, you need to wait till it's the right time for you. And one of the mistakes I think that agents are making with people is they have been taught to always say yes. Is it time? Yeah, it's time. Is it right time? Oh, it's right.
Have you ever turned someone away saying, like, if you sat down with a client right now,
Of course.
and you had questions and, what's your goal in a home? Like, what are you looking for 5 years from now, 10 years from now in this house? Are you looking to move? Like, those questions, have you ever told a buyer, it might not be the right time to actually buy?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Again, like I teach our students, lifetime value. I'm not after the one time. You know what I mean? I'm after the over and over and over. I'm after your referrals. I'm after your 100%. Like that is.
And you're just saying a lot of agents today, that's where they miss it. Like,
again, what's best for the consumer? When you just tell someone yes, you're thinking about yourself. You're saying, I got bills. Go buy. Yep, it's free. Yep, buy. And what you don't even realize is that you actually did what's not good for yourself long term, because they don't use you over and over again. They don't, there's a respect that comes when someone expects you to say something and then you go, no, actually, that's probably not the right move for you right now. Let's wait. Yeah, that's what I would do. Like, let's, you don't know what your situation is going to be. You don't know if you're going to like that area. Let's rent in that area for a little bit and let's see. You're coming from out of state. Let's see, That's the honest, that's the person you want to work with. That's the real professional. You know, that's not the hobbyist just trying to pay their bills right now. Like that's the professional.
Yeah.
You know, so when's the right time? It's when it's the right time for you. You know, it's when you're ready. And one of the major factors, and I did a video about this, the difference between, you know, buying stocks daily, you know, day trading stocks, and real estate is time. Real estate is always a good investment long term. So what's your time frame? You know, if you're going to be there for any amount of time, absolutely. Set up shop, let's do it, let's build equity, let's, you know, whatever. There's never been a 10-year period in the history of the real estate market where it went down, okay? Now, if you're not sure, it's short term, it's whatever, may not be the right time. You're going to have closing costs. They're going to take off of any kind of capital or any kind of, you know, potential return that you're going to get. You're going to be mainly interest in the beginning. There's going to be moving costs.
Now you're paying commissions.
There's
possibly.
moving costs going in. There's commission costs. There's new stuff you're buying for the house. There's fix-ups. There's all these things you have to make up for that it may not. And the real professional looks at all of that and gives the right answer based on who's in front of them, not the right answer based on what's good for them. And that's the difference between a hobbyist and a professional.
Yeah. When I purchased my first home with a realtor, a couple, they're a husband and wife, I purchased it, and a week later I had some major plumbing issues. And I reached out to her, and she's like, "Welcome to Homeownership."
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And as a joke, but at the same exact time, you know, it's so there's a lot of like.
That's exactly right.
investment
There
that
are
goes
all
into
those
it.
kinds of things that go into it that are the unintended expenses that you don't think of that are part of, you know.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there's equity over time in those things, but those are supposed to make up for and go beyond. But if you don't give them time to do that, it doesn't matter. And so for some people, the answer is no, not the right time,
Yeah.
you know? But the good news is that when you say no, you're saying yes to a long-term client. And that should be the ultimate goal,
Yeah.
right? It's not the one time. This isn't Tinder. We are eHarmony, okay? This industry is not Tinder. We're not one-night standing people. We're trying to get long-term relationships.
Yeah.
And someone who you're trying to be in a long-term relationship with, you treat them differently. You act differently. You talk differently. You approach it differently. You play the game different.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's how we have to look at it.
Yeah.
So
So the American dream is obtainable. It's just different.
yeah,
Looks different.
it's way different. But anyway, what were you gonna say?
Oh, there was something just flying.
Oh, we have to close up soon here.
Oh, we do. Okay, you know, I want to show you something. I was on the plane
You have more
flying
surprises?
over. Just one thing. And Tom will put this on the screen, but I'm going to
Yes.
show you this video with, I want to say like without music real quick. And I want you to tell me, just first impressions, what you think this ad is. And those that are on YouTube will see this.
Okay, so I'll watch this.
So watch. I don't want you to play the actual audio.
Oh, I just turned audio.
It's fine.
go.
You could do the audio then. That's fine. Take a look at it, and I want you to tell me, what are we marketing here? And there's a reason to all of this.
We look like we're marketing a liberal arts degree for a college. What the crap?
Okay, so I want to talk about brand. And you know, you are what major? What did you major in school?
Marketing. Okay,
Okay.
so there's clearly. What the crap?
Have you? I'm going to show you this too, Tom.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I probably haven't seen it. I'll be
It
honest.
first off, everyone in this ad, I don't know what their gender is, like, and that's intentional. Okay, like that was weird. Okay,
okay, you majored in marketing.
Yeah.
How important is a brand?
forget about major in marketing. I do
In
this
general.
for a living.
In general.
brand
How-
is everything.
Absolutely.
Brand is everything.
Okay, and then
Brand is better than any marketing you can do. Having a brand is better than any marketing you
show
can
you
do.
this.
Brand
Tom.
closes people without even having to sell them.
what are they selling?
What are they selling? Barbie dolls, non-gender Barbie dolls. I really don't know. That was
So
weird.
this is super controversial right now, like on the internet, all over when it comes to marketing.
By the way, when I say non-gender, I just mean that like literally it just looked like those Barbie dolls where like they had no parts.
People
They had
mentioned-
no whatever. It was just like weird, flat, like weird. Like it
people
was
said
weird.
like, what is it called? Like not Telly Belly. What is it called? Like they've been mocked and called cartoon characters. This is an ad for Jaguar. Okay.
Like-
Elon Musk actually
cougars?
responded.
Like a
and
cougar woman?
No, the car. He responded onto this ad.
How is
and
that an
he
ad
said,
for Jaguar?
He said, and
Did you even see a car?
that's exactly what Elon responded on X. He's like, and do you guys sell cars? So
That
was
was that a piece of the ad?
That was it.
That's the ad for
That was-
Jaguar,
that
the car
was-
for old people?
So that is funny how you say old people too. So they wanted to tease and they wanted to change the brand, and they want to diversitize everything, right? They said, you know what, we need to change it to where it's, I don't know, it's now more of a political statement than it was a luxury like brand and statement. So they have taken a British company and now have made it something that is, and Elon mentioned this too, so woke that people are now pulling away from the actual brand.
Duh,
It is
like, that
actually
was
hurting
weird.
them. Now, it's a rebrand. I don't think all rebrands are awful. A lot of companies do rebrands.
No, but what is that rebranded
right?
to?
Exactly. And you mentioned something earlier today, and you mentioned about always keeping the customer center focused, right, on things. And a lot of people are criticizing this because the customer was not center focused when they actually did the rebrand. It was all about going electrical, right, and getting away from the actual Jag.
I'm still trying to
Jag
wrap
in
my head
general.
around how that's a car commercial.
Yeah, car commercial. And so, anyways, brand
But
is
like
just
literally,
super
what
important.
did that have to? I don't care if you're woke. I don't care if you're, like I said earlier, hillbilly in the whatever. What did that have to do with cars?
I know.
Is this Bud Light all over again?
Exactly what I was just going to
At
say.
least Bud Light,
what
they were showing
did,
beer.
well, exactly, right?
what was
In this,
this?
you would have
The
no
vein, yes.
idea.
What was this?
I just think they actually took the heritage. They took everything out. They even changed the logo, so you don't have the Jag anymore.
Babe, they took the hair out. Forget the
Yeah,
heritage.
I know.
I don't think any of them had hair.
At first, I thought it was like a commercial for Tyler the Creator's new album. It was like the same
Oh
haircut.
my God, it's so funny. Me and Grayson have been talking about Tyler the Creator lately. He loves Tyler the Creator.
Yeah.
And but you're right. He looks like that.
It looks
like
it's the same cut.
I think when I love marketing, I love being creative. But if they were going to do a rebrand of something like this,
Yeah.
they probably should have looked at the history of Jag and incorporated things that were there years and years and years ago versus getting rid of the actual
But
Jag
Buick
logo.
did this.
Facebook
They
did
got
this.
rid of the
logo, the actual.
logo?
The
So
Cougar
Buick
logo.
did this. Buick used to be. So you've seen Ryan still drives a Buick, right? Buick Enclave.
I thought she has an Infinity.
Yep, Buick Enclave was many years ago. Okay, so she used to drive a Buick Enclave when they like came out with the new ones, and they were nice. And Buick used to be like the old folk, the Buick Oldsmobile, like the Buick. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? They were the old folks' cars. Let's
Yeah.
face it. Like you had to show a license, but it wasn't 21
Lincoln the
plus.
same way.
It was
Lincoln was the
81
same way.
plus.
Yeah.
And then Buick rebranded like 15 years ago, and they started coming out with like these beautiful, like the Buick Enclave and the whatever, and you were like, dang, And we bought one, and we were, I don't know, 30, 28, somewhere in there, whatever, and they were gorgeous cars, like whatever. But they rebranded with the product, not with whatever doll they wanted to drive their car. Like, I don't know what that was.
It's more of an agenda. That's what it is. It's more of an agenda than it
100%
actually is like
agenda.
looking at your consumer that's actually going to buy the car.
How do you not learn from like the
And
mistakes
so,
over and over again, though?
But a lot of large companies have done it right. You said Buick. Facebook went over to what? Meta.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they've done it right, but it's because they pivoted. They stuck to their core values.
Yeah.
They explained it
Wait,
to.
are they changing their name?
No. Well, I think it's now like their.
Cougar.
No, it's their slogan is like something about.
Tom, I tried the first time. It didn't go over.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
what
heard
it
it.
is.
I heard it.
But like, copy nothing is what they're going.
nothing.
Jaguar, copy nothing.
They got that
delete,
right.
and it's like delete ordinary is what they mentioned. Delete ordinary, copy nothing.
Success.
Create, live vivid, all of this stuff. And I just really think that they have completely missed the boat here. People are saying it's either amazing marketing or suicide. And
Yeah.
it's all over. And so,
well, I mean, I think first off, nobody was buying their cars to begin with, so maybe they said, "Screw it."
well, you have to understand too. Jaguar
still not
is
buying.
also Range Rover, so there are the same.
Jaguar is Range Rover?
They are the same sister company.
That's going to hurt them.
And so exactly,
Because
so
here's
it is
why,
hurting
guys.
that
I mean,
brand.
like, listen to this. Like, this is like, how dumb do these places get? It's like Michael Jordan said back in the day. He was like, Republicans buy shoes too, because they asked him why he doesn't get political, right? Why would you, as a brand? There's a certain percentage of the country who's like very adamant, like they are on both sides, that are just feverish. And once they feel like you're against them, they won't touch you. Why would you take a portion of the market and go, screw you, and basically signal them, we don't want you having our cars, to where they're going to be like, screw you, especially when your main population who buys your cars are older people.
And very wealthy.
They're not woke.
No, and
they are not
and
woke.
quite honestly, they're
barely awake.
So what they're
Forget about woke.
What they're
I mean,
also doing is they're doubling almost the price of these vehicles, and they're going all EV, all electric. Which, quite honestly, in the U.S., 70 to almost 80% of the cars still operate on gas.
Yeah, what are you doing here?
And so they're going this way.
It almost seems like a desperate play.
They missed the mark on marketing. And I think it's absolutely.
I want to know
hurt.
who took over. Like, because there's someone like with the
haven't
Bud Light
dug
thing,
into
you
it
had
yet.
someone in the marketing department who has since gone, who again didn't pay attention to their core customer.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody in that marketing department or a new CEO or somebody came in thinking that their job, they came out of college, and they think their job is to push this agenda and to do, and whatever. And one day they'll grow up and realize, God, what am I doing? Like, that's not what my job is at all. Somebody came in and did that. Yep. And so I'd be interested to know, like, the back. Like, I'm going to look this up afterwards. I want to know, like, who took over and made those decisions.
I'm not too sure about that.
Because that is, when I watch that ad, forget about all of the wokeism and all that kind of stuff. That has nothing to do with just pure marketing.
What are you selling?
Pure marketing.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that
Yeah.
is. My first reaction when you showed it to me, you heard me. I went, "What is this? A advertisement for a liberal arts degree?" It looks like something college students would get together in their bubble and be like, "This is what we need the world to be."
People try to be, replicate ads like Apple, right? And Apple and Nike does this really well too. They do ads without any voiceover. It's all sound, right? And it's really cool. And they'll show you half the phone, not all the phone, but half of it. Because it gets you interested. You're on the edge. They also have brand. They want to go in, and they do have brand, and they have the audience.
So when you see half the phone, you're like, brand.
Exactly.
Jaguar?
There was nothing there.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting? The models match the car. The cars are bright pink.
Oh, come
blues.
on, stop it.
It's not a classic British vehicle anymore. It's very much like, I could show it to you. It's very much wanting to be all electric. So
you had it right.
Anyways,
Tyler the Creator might buy it. Yeah. There's one.
So we'll see where this goes. It might go back to the vision board, but they spent a lot.
You already had a small market, the older market, and then you said F you to them.
But you know what?
Like, Jags, basically, right? And so now we're left with nothing.
I have to tell you, though, if I ever owned a Jag, that symbol, that Jaguar symbol, is what I would want on my car.
Oh.
Wouldn't you want that beautiful, I would want that.
Yeah, this is...
It's like taking...
This is dummy.
Like, why would you take a Rolls Royce symbol down?
Dummy.
You want that Rolls Royce symbol.
Dummy.
Right?
Yeah, it's not smart.
What they did is completely... That right there was just iconic.
Yeah.
And that would speak luxury to just for me.
Yeah, that
was...
So,
anyways, super interesting. I wanted to talk about, this is how... I just wanted to mention just how important brand is. And you talk about this all the time. And we
might do a little more research on this and talk about it on the next episode.
They absolutely...
That is interesting.
They butchered this one.
Babe, if I do may say... You brought up some great topics today.
Did I?
Might keep you around.
The American dream, the brand. I mean, let's go. You're crushing.
Brought up that you only on one time.
We have other things on here that we're not discussing today. We'll do it on the next episode. We have a Christmas party tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Holiday party.
Yes.
Tonight that we're going to be doing. Looking forward to that. I just got a message that my son's tire is flat, popped. He's stranded on the side of the road. So I'm going to get off of this podcast and go be a father. But I also have videos to shoot too. So he can wait.
That's what happens, Grayson, when we
be there in an hour.
I have Ubered a Jaguar to him. It will float to him. Yes.
A pink Teletubby will pop out.
Yep. He always wanted to meet Tyler, the Creator. This is his best chance.
There it
Okay.
is.
If you see one of those, it's probably him.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
Anyway. So we're gonna get to that, guys. Thank you for watching. As always, if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about this. Did you watch the ad? Did you not watch the ad?
Oh
What's the
my
American
gosh.
dream? Comment below. Let
I
us know
know.
what that is. We want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah.
We love you guys. We will see you next time.
Talk to you later. Bye.